Hello dear students, actually I know that you are not in hilarious mood because actually we are passing very monotonous time, and you know actually time is the most blessings of our creator Allah. So if you can use the time properly, you can develop yourself. Today I know it very well that actually arranged class and online class are not same, but I believe if you can concentrate on this class, you will get a bit benefit. And today I just want to discuss about transformation, especially it is included in your HSC second paper English, and it is very important not in the field of writing, but you will get the benefit if you want to develop your skill in speaking, writing. So it is very important. And today I just want to discuss you about simple, complex, compound sentence. At first you should know about the characteristics of these three categories of sentences. And you know, structurally sentences is three kinds: simple, complex, and compound. So at first you should know about the characteristics of these three sentences. Suppose simple sentence. What are the characteristics of making a simple sentence? And how will you define that, whether it is a sentence or not? Actually, sentence depends on something. What is that? At first you need subject, then verb. Subject and verb is very important for making a sentence. It is very important. And you know, if you get a subject and a verb, you can think that it is a sentence. Of course, it has to have a completeness. Without getting a complete meaning, you cannot say that it is a sentence. So you have to have a completeness, and of course you have to ensure whether it has a subject and a verb. What type of verb? There are different kinds of verb. You know, this one, finite verb. And finite verb is very important. Finite verb indicates the completion of a sentence or completeness. So finite verb is very important. In a simple sentence, you will get one subject and one finite verb. One subject and one finite verb. Of course, it has to have completed thought. Without getting completed thought, you cannot say that it is a sentence. So, of course, in a simple sentence, you will ensure that whether it has a single subject and of course a single finite verb. And that means if you want to have a clear conception about a structural sentence, you need the idea of subject, the idea of verb, and the idea of clause. These three things are very important for getting a clear conception of simple, complex, and compound sentence. Simple, complex, and compound sentence. And you know, actually, when we speak with somebody, when you want to express our thinking in writing, you need to have a good command on these three sentences, this structurally simple, complex, and compound. And if you want to have a good command on these three types of sentences, of course you have a clear conception about subject, verb, and clause. That is very important. Subject, you know very well. What is subject? Actually, subject performs the action. Subject performs the action, that is called subject. And verb. Verb actually completes the thought or completes the sentence. And what is clause actually? You should have a good conception about clause. What is clause actually? And clause is a part of a sentence. Clause is a part of a sentence. If I say it is a part of a sentence, you may be confused. You may be confused about what? About differentiating between clause and phrase. Phrase is also a part of a sentence. Clause is also a part of a sentence. So what are the differences between clause and phrase? In clause, you will get actually full characteristics of a simple sentence. That means in a clause, you will get subject, you will get finite verb, Actually, these are the characteristics of a sentence. In a clause, you are getting subject, verb, verb. But in phrase is a group of words. Phrase is a group of words. It can be used as a part of a sentence, but it cannot ensure the completeness. It cannot ensure the complete thought. So you will not get completed thought in phrase because it has no finite verb. It cannot express the complete thought, but it can be used as a part of a sentence. But in clause you will get subject, finite verb. That means in a simple sentence you are getting a subject and finite verb, and of course in clause you are getting subject and finite verb. That means clause is used as a part of a sentence. Actually clause itself a sentence, but it is connected with a sentence, and in this way clause just ensures different types of sentences. Actually, how many clauses you will get? There are actually, you can say 3 types of clauses, sometimes you can say 2 types of clauses. What are they? Number 1, main clause or principal clause. Principal clause. Number 2, subordinate or dependent clause. Number 3, coordinate clause. There are 3 types of clauses, and main clause, subordinate clause or coordinate clause. There are 3 types of clauses you will get in simple, complex or compound sentence. I told you before, my dear students, actually this idea, to many students it is a very complicated thing. Actually, why it is complicated thing? The students feel very scared when they see that I have to interchange among simple, complex, compound. They become scared. Why? Because they have to memorize some important characteristics of these sentences. But it is very important and easy to memorize, easy to recollect all the characteristics of these sentences. It is not very tough if you just think only some special characteristics of these 3 sentences. Main clause. In main clause you will get a single subject and a finite verb, and it is completely independent. It is completely independent, and if you say he went to college, this is the criteria of a simple sentence. Why? This is subject and this is finite verb. This is subject and this is finite verb, and here you will get a completeness. So it is a sentence and it is simple sentence. If you say, though he was ill, he went to college. Here you are getting 2 parts, and both these 2 parts contains the full criteria of a sentence. Here you will notice a subject and a finite verb. Here you are getting a subject and a finite verb. That means you are getting full criteria of a simple sentence. That means you can denote in this way. This is a simple sentence, this is a simple sentence, and these 2 parts are connected with though. It is a conjunction. That means though you are getting the full criteria of a simple sentence, you cannot say that you are getting the completeness or completed thought. How? Though he was ill. It does not indicate that it is a completed thought. It is dependent on another thought. All the criteria you are finding here, that means he was ill, but you cannot say that it is a completed thought and it is itself a sentence unless we are telling that he went to college. That means this part is completely dependent on this part. So which word, which one makes this dependent? Though. Though makes the part dependent on this part. So though is a conjunction. And what type of conjunction? Actually, it is subordinate conjunction. It is a subordinate conjunction. This part actually indicates subordinate clause, and this is main clause. That means subordinate clause is completely dependent on the main clause. Main clause does not depend on anything. That means you are getting full criteria some sentences of both these two parts, but one part is completely dependent on another part. In this way, you can say that actually this part is dependent, this part is independent. If you find this type of criteria of any sentence, you can call it a complex sentence. You can call it a complex sentence. So if you want to make any complex sentence, you have to create a dependent clause and an independent clause. In this way, you can create a complex sentence. Of course, next I will discuss it in detail. And then, if I want to make any compound sentence, what will I do? Compound. That you have to add. You have to add compound sentence. If I say here plus, that means we are adding something. We are adding something. Here, if I say he was ill but went to college. Actually, this is a very special criteria, special characteristics of making compound sentence. In compound sentence, you are not allowed to repeat the same subject. You are not allowed to repeat the same subject. So, in compound sentence, you know the first sentence, the subject of this first sentence is he, and the subject of the second subject is he. So you can, you need not to write down this subject again. But you should think that there is a subject here. So he is ill. This is a sentence. He went to college. This is a sentence. You know, both these parts are independent. Both these parts are independent. Actually, no part is dependent on any part. That means this is independent part, this is independent part. You are adding with a conjunction, and this is coordinating conjunction. This is coordinating conjunction. In this way, you can make compound sentence. That means in simple sentence, you have to write down a single subject and a single final verb. In complex sentence, you have to make two parts. One part will be dependent on another part. That means you will get two clauses here. One is main clause and another is subordinate clause. If you want to make compound sentence, of course you have to create two clauses, and both the clauses are independent, and these independent clauses will be added with coordinating conjunction. In this way, you can make simple, complex, or compound sentence. These are the actually primary conception about making simple, complex, and compound sentence. And in the slide, you can notice the criteria of simple sentence in this way, and complex sentence. That means in this complex sentence, you are getting a principal clause and a subordinate clause. And I told you the actually what is the definition of clause, and how will you actually know, how will you be confirmed that it is a clause or it is a phrase. In a clause, you will get a single subject and of course a final verb. But in phrase, you will get that it is an idea. Phrase is just an idea having some words. That means phrase is a group of words having an idea. But clause is a complete thought, though sometimes it may depend on other, but you will get the full criteria of a sentence in clause. And here you are getting the subordinate. If you want to make any subordinate clause, you need some conjunction, subordinate conjunction, likely if, though, although, as, because, since, so that, so dot dot that, until, till, unless, when, why, who, which, where. In this way, you can make any subordinate clause by using this type of conjunction. And compound sentence, you know, in compound sentence I told you that you can make a compound sentence by adding more than one principal clauses. That means all the clauses will be principal. No clause will depend on any other clause. So you can make a compound sentence by using coordinating conjunction like and, but, or, yet, and so. Therefore, not only but also, in this way you can make compound sentence. And actually there are some technical problem. For that reason I cannot express it. The font is very oblique. Font is all right? Okay. You can memorize the criteria or the system of interchange from simple complex compound by memorizing these lines in a rhythmic way. But in a rhythmic way, you can actually memorize these things. If you feel that it is very important, just inform us. We will provide you manually. And these are the examples of complex sentence to simple. And later, I will try to make you understand how will you interchange these sentences. And these are the way. The boy is so dishonest that he cannot speak the truth. Actually, here you may notice this is I structure so dot that. You have to, of course, accept some fundamental rules. That means if you find any sentence just adding with so dot that, of course you have to use 2 for making a simple sentence. This is a fundamental rule. So you have to memorize some fundamental rules. I will provide you everything manually. And this is from complex to compound. From complex to compound, you can memorize these rhythmic lines. And these are the examples. And I think it may work a bit. You can get help from this diagram. In this diagram, you can notice this very easily. These are very fundamental things. What are they? From compound, complex, and simple. This is the very simple diagram. That means if you notice any compound sentence with but, of course you have to make that compound complex by adding the subordinate conjunction although. That means by using although you can make complex from compound if the compound is actually added with but, that means coordinating conjunction but. And of course the simple, for making the simple sentences you should use in spite of, despite, and possessive plus verb plus ing like that. That means in spite of my going, because when you are making any simple sentence, of course you sometimes in this respect you have to make phrase from the subordinate clause. So though I went there, if you want to make phrase from this clause, of course you have to write down in this way, in spite of my going. These are the very fundamental rules you have to memorize, and this is very easy to memorize this diagram. So I will provide you next. And then or, you can find out or denotes negative meaning. So if you find any compound sentence using or, you can make it complex by using if plus present plus future. In actually this is very common thing. We have learned it from the very early stage of our student life. If you get or in compound sentence, of course you should think that it has a negative meaning. So in this for this negative meaning, you just use if plus present plus future. This is structure, but of course you have to use negative. That means if plus subject plus negative verb, subject plus verb. That means the main clause will be like that, subject plus verb. If you do not go, I will not go. That means the first sentence, the subordinate clause, you have to use negative in subordinate clause because you are getting or. And if you want to make simple sentence, of course you have to use without, because without denotes negative things. That means or, compound, if plus present using negative, complex, and of course without plus ing, simple. Then verb plus and. This is very short and it is very easy to memorize. If you practice in this way, I think it will be easier for you. And of course, you will get removed from your scary mentality. That means sometimes the students are very scared, thinking that I have to make complex compound. Oh, it is very tough. No, it is very easy. If you just think it very minutely, and if you follow the diagram, it will be very easier for you to actually to memorize or to build up a confidence on simple complex compound. Very and bhar plus and. If here bhar plus and, it indicates that you are getting the affirmative sense. Affirmative sense. Do and die. That means you have to do, you have to die. There is no negative sense here. So for this affirmative sense, you will write down if plus present plus future, and of course you will ensure the affirmative form of this sentence to make a complex sense. And when you will write down a simple sentence, you have to use by plus ing. By using by plus ing, you can ensure that it has a affirmative meaning and you are writing a simple sentence. Then subject plus and, when, as, since, verb plus ing. If I give you some example from each structure, it will be very easier. And of course, in my next class, I will try to make you clear about all the structure by giving example for each. And then, and he wanted, and not only but also, and in this, actually this diagram, you can make a copy of the diagram and you will try yourself to giving some example, to give some example, create some example from this diagram. It will be easier for you, and I think you should try it first. Then in the next class, of course, I will try to make you clear. This is the primary discussion for transforming from simple to complex to compound in this way. And then we will go in detail. You know, if I ask you to make any simple sentence, what will you do? If I want to make any simple sentence, what will you do? Of course, you should think that the given sentence, the followed sentence, of course, the sentence will be either complex or compound. That means if I ask you to make any simple sentence, to change any sentence into simple, that means the given sentence may be complex or may be compound. That means if you want to make any simple sentence from complex or compound, at first you have to be determined that you have to ensure one subject and one finite verb. That means if I ask you to make any simple sentence, you have to ensure one subject and one finite verb. Suppose the given sentence was complex. In complex sentence, of course, there were two subjects and two finite verbs. You have to make one finite verb. That means this is a problem for the students. Sometimes arises. What is that? Two subjects, two finite verbs. In complex sentence, I am asking to make you simple sentence. That means you have to transform two into one. That means you have to ensure one subject by deleting one subject. You have to ensure one finite verb by deleting one finite verb. No. Actually, if you do these things, that I have to actually delete one subject and one finite verb, then I can easily ensure simple sentence. No. Sometimes the meaning will be disappear. You will not get the clear meaning. What will you do then? You know, there are three criteria of any noun or pronoun. What are they? Subjective or nominative case, objective case, and possessive case. Suppose if I say he, it is a subjective case. It is a subjective form. If I say him, it is objective form. If I say his, it is possessive form. So if you want to actually change the subject, if you want to change the subject into another order, you can make he to him or his according to necessity. If you think that I want to actually delete the subject, I don't want to use the subject in the sentence because I need only a single subject, you can transform the subject into him or his. That means objective or possessive case according to necessity. And then finite verb. You know, there are 5 forms of a verb. There are 5 forms of a verb. You know, it is easier to say, to explain what is finite verb, what is non-finite verb. If you get the complete thought, it indicates that it is a finite verb. If you don't get the complete thought, it indicates that it is not finite verb, it is non-finite verb. But actually, by getting the structure, you can also denote whether it is a finite verb or not. You are getting 5 forms of verb. Suppose go, goes, went, going, gone. These are the figures. These are the forms of a verb. That means a verb can be changed into 5 shapes. This is base. You are adding s or es. This is past form. This is ing form. This is past participle form. That means these three forms actually indicate that it is finite verb. This true form indicate that it is non-finite verb. Of course, you can change any finite verb to non-finite or non-finite to finite. How? If I say I go, this is a complete sense. He goes, he went. In this way, by taking this 3 shape, you can easily complete a sentence. But just think, he going, he gone. No. This shape does not indicate that it is finite verb, because you are not getting a complete thought by using ing or past participle. If you want to ensure this form as finite verb, of course you have to add helping verb, auxiliary verb. What? Be verb. And here have verb. That means by adding helping verb, you can ensure this shape as finite verb. But this shape ensures finite verb without using any helping verb, and you cannot use even here any helping verb. And you know, so if I want to make any complex sentence to simple sentence, we will get 2 finite verbs. We have to make 1 finite verb, and the rest one should be non-finite. Suppose if this one went, this is a finite form and finite verb. If I has to ask to make it non-finite, what should I do? I can do it in this way: going, gone, or to go. These 3 forms are non-finite. So finite verb can be transformed into non-finite in this way. Finite verb can be transformed into non-finite in this way. So when you are asking to make any simple sentence, of course you have to make non-finite verb from finite in this way. Actually, whether you will use ing, past participle or to, that is dependent on the necessity, on the meaning. So actually it will depend on meaning whether you will use ing, past participle or infinitive, to plus verb. It will depend on the necessity. So in this way you can transform complex sentence to simple sentence. That means for making a simple sentence, of course you have to ensure a single subject and single verb. In this way, When I saw him, he was talking to Ruhin. Here you are getting two sentences. Both the sentences are complex. How? We are getting two parts. This part is completely dependent on this part. That means you are getting one subordinate clause and one principal clause. And the second sentence, of course, you are getting one subordinate clause and one principal clause. If I ask you to make simple sentence from this sentence, what will you do? Here you are getting two subjects, two finite verb, two subject and two finite verb. You have to transform it into one subject and one finite verb. The most important thing, interesting thing is that here you are getting two subjects, but actually these two subjects are not same. This is different. But here you are getting the same subject is repeated here. The same subject is repeated here. So if you just deduct any subject from here, it does not indicate that the rest of the verb is done by whom. You need not to be confused, because one subject indicates the two verbs are done by one subject. But here saw and was, these two verbs are done by two different subjects. So while making complex from this simple from this complex sentence, you cannot actually remove this subject or this subject. Of course, you have to take these subjects in simple sentence. That is, what will you do? What will you do? At that time, you cannot delete any subject. You have to write down these two subjects at the same time for making simple sentence. But when you are getting the same subject for making simple sentence, you need not to repeat the same subject. What will you do then? You will ensure the finite verb into non-finite. I told you, see, you can write down seeing a tiger. This subordinate clause is turned into a phrase, seeing a tiger. That means you have already deduct one subject because the subject is same, and this finite verb is transformed into non-finite verb. So the subordinate clause right now is turned into a phrase, seeing a tiger, and the principal clause you need not to change any part. You can just write down in this way. Here you are getting a single subject, a single verb. That means it is a simple sentence. What will you do here? Actually, what will you do? Here you are not supposed to deduct any subject from here, because these two different actions are performed by two different persons. So you are not allowed to actually omit any subject from here. What will you do then? You can actually choose two ways. What are they? Actually, by taking the first subject, you can make the finite verb non-finite, and of course another way is you can make the subordinate clause a phrase by using the first subject into possessive case. Like that, when indicates time. So you can write down here in this way, at the time. At the time, when indicates at the time. When indicates here a conjunction, but it is a phrase, at the time. At the time of my. At the time of my. I here is turned into my. At the time of my seeing a tiger. Actually, when this type of question is given to the students, they are becoming confused. You need not to be confused. If you find any different subject, you can change the subject in this way. You are making it possessive at the time of my. Why are you using at the time of in place of when? Because when indicates time. So by deleting, by omitting when, you are using the phrase at the time. At the same time, at the time and when indicates the same thing. But when was a conjunction, at the time was a phrase. At the time of my seeing a tiger, this part is used as a phrase. And then the next sentence, the principal clause, he left the place. In this way, you can make simple sentence from complex. You can make simple sentence from complex. So, when you will find any complex sentence by using the subordinate conjunctions, actually, the subordinate conjunctions indicate time, action, reason, condition, many things. And when you will write down, you will transform complex sentence to simple. Of course, you have to find out the meaning of the conjunctions. And according to the meaning, you have to use phrase like during, at the time of, because of, in this way. So, I will discuss you later in the next class. I will discuss it in detail in the next class. Just today, I just want to recap the class again. My dear students, I told you that you are not passing a very hilarious time. All of you are passing a very monotonous time. And I told you that time is the most valuable blessing of Allah. If you can use the time properly, you can be successful. So don't waste your time idly. Please try to use the time very properly and very appropriately in your house. And I know it is very tough to pass the time, but you should think that you are the asset of the future generation. I know, actually, don't spend the time idly. Try to use the time every day by staying at home, because the people, all the people of the world are passing these days, but we hope that within a very short time we will be able to overcome the situation, and of course we will sing together, we will sit together, and we will play together. My dear students, please don't be disheartened. Try to use the time properly, and I know it very well. I miss you always, because I just want to see the faces of my students. I cannot see your faces, so I am missing you very badly. But I believe and I have a confidence upon Allah that within a very short time we will get a good environment, we will get a very hygienic environment, and we will laugh together, sing together, sit together, we will learn together. My dear students, I just want to recap the class again for your memorization, and I know that actually in this way I will not be able to give you the 100% for the students, because actually I am not getting the questions from you. So I am not sure whether you are clear or not, but I want to recap the class again within a very short time. That means today we are trying to focus on simple, complex and compound sentences, because in our examination we have to answer from this question. Not only that, in our daily life we need it very badly, because for speaking, for writing, we need to know, we have to have good confidence on simple, complex and compound sentence. In simple, complex and compound sentence, one thing is very common. What is that? In simple sentence, of course, you have to follow a structure. What is that? A single subject, a single final verb. Single subject and single final verb, and definitely a completed thought. A completed thought. That is called simple sentence. And complex sentence, in complex sentence, you will get two parts. And one part will be dependent on another part. That means here you will notice a clause. That means here you will find a subordinate clause and a principal clause. What are the criteria of a clause? Clause, actually in a clause you will get a subject and a final verb. That means you will get the same characteristics of a sentence in a clause, but it is used in a sentence as a part of a sentence. That means in complex sentence you will get a subordinate clause and a principal clause. How will you notice, how will you be confident that it is a subordinate clause? In subordinate clause you will find the subordinate conjunctions which will actually paralyze the part. That means though it has a subject, a finite verb, it cannot ensure the completed thought. Like as he was ill. As he was ill does not indicate or does not ensure the completed thought. So it is a subordinate clause, and the rest one will be principal clause. And then compound sentence. The compound sentence is added with coordinating conjunction. That means each clauses is coordinating clause. That means principal clause. The principal clauses will be added with coordinating conjunction like and, but, or, yet, therefore. In this way you have to add. That means all the parts will be independent. In this way you can make simple, complex and compound sentence. When you will be asked to transform these sentences from simple to complex, complex to simple, complex to compound, compound to complex, you have to memorize, you have to think the criteria. That means when you will make any complex sentence, of course you will make two parts, one part will be dependent, another part will be independent. When you will make any compound sentence, you will make two parts, and two parts means here you will get two independent clauses. And when you are asked to write down any simple sentence, of course you will ensure one subject and one finite verb. In this way you can write down simple, complex and compound sentence. My dear students, in the next class I will try my level best to make you understand how will you transform this sentence. That means the rules or way of interchanging these sentences. Dear students, I am telling you again, I miss you and wishing you best of luck and expecting a very bright morning very soon. A bright morning very soon. We want to learn together. Thank you. Thank you, my students.